Okay, to start tonight, here we are. Let's look at John, 1 John 4, 7 to 9. And hopefully again we have different translations just to give us a little flavor of what is being said there. Okay, 1 John 4, 7 to 9. What's your translation, Sherry?
I have New Living Translation up.
Oh, New Living. That'll be interesting.
Okay.
All right.
Dear friends, let us continue to love one another, for love comes from God. Anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God. But anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love. God showed how much He loved us by sending His one and only Son into the world so that we might have eternal life through Him.
So where does love come from? Is that something inherent in us that we can develop
It's only
and
inherent in
make
God.
it happen one day? What's that?
It's only inherent in God.
There you go. So it comes from Him too,
Comes from
right?
Him.
Yeah. Very interesting how this phrase. What translation do you have, Jeff?
NIV.
Okay, give that a whirl. Let's see what that's like.
You want me to read 7 through 9?
Yeah.
Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed His love among us. He sent His own one and only Son into the world that we might live through Him.
That's pretty close. Living with a little more flowery as it gave its rendition. John, do you have yours up? What really translation do you have up?
King James.
All right, the Old Faithful. Let's give it a whirl. Let's see what that sounds like. That's 7 to 9. 1 John 4, 7 to 9.
It's John 4.
1 John.
1 John.
We were going to get it from Latvian pretty soon over here. Simone,
No,
so
this
don't
is
go,
that
don't go to sleep on us.
paraphrase. This is
We're going to
paraphrase
have you
because
translate
my Latvian
Latvian.
is absolutely King James.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Straight away?
Yeah, straight
Ah,
away.
okay. All right.
Totally figured out.
What do you have? You have remedy up there?
Yeah,
All right, give it to us.
okay.
All right, listen to this.
It says, so my dear friends, let us live in love, giving all we have for the health and welfare of one another. For genuine, selfless love comes from God. Everyone who loves as Christ loves has been healed and recreated in his heart and mind and restored to an intimate oneness with God. But whoever does not love others more than self has not been healed and doesn't even know God, as God is love. God showed His love to us in this. He sent His one and only Son as a real human being into this selfish world that we might be healed and restored into unity with God through Him.
Wow, it's a little more lengthy in its
Yeah.
wording, isn't it? But okay, here's the King James. Are you ready there, John?
Beloved, let us one another, for love is of God,
Love is of God.
and everyone that loveth is born of God. And
That's
knoweth
cool
God.
there. Everyone that loves others is born of God, you said. Okay, okay.
He that loveth knoweth not, or he that loveth not knoweth not God.
So if we don't have the love in the heart for others, then that means we have no idea who God is.
For God is love.
Yeah.
In this was manifested the love of God toward us, because that God sent His only begotten Son into the world that we might live through Him. Herein is love, not that we loved God, but that He loved us and sent His Son to be the propitiation
Propitiation, is that what you have?
propitiation of our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another.
Okay, so that big word, is that okay with you folks, propitiation?
To
Sherry,
win
what is
back.
that word, propitiation?
This one says,
I know I've looked it up 100
to
times.
be the means by which our
Okay,
sins are forgiven,
all right. Here's a good simple definition for
instead
that.
of that word.
Means used. The means that was used. That's what that is.
The Good News Bible says, but that he loved us and sent his son to be the means by which our sins are forgiven.
There you go, uses the word by its means. So to keep it simple, Ellen White often uses that term, means used, to keep it simple. Okay, let's try one more. 1 John 3, 1 to 3. Okay, are you ready, Simona? You have the living there.
No. 1 John 3, just back
The
one
second
chapter.
one, B, 1 John 3, 1 to 3.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 3, 1, 2. See how very much our Heavenly Father loves us, for He allows us to be called His children. Think of it, and we really are. But since most people don't know God, naturally they don't understand that we are His children. Yes, dear friends, we are already God's children right now, and we can't even imagine what it is going to be like later on. But we do know this, that when He comes, we will be like Him as a result of seeing Him as He really is. And everyone who really believes this will try to stay pure because Christ is pure. That's it. That's it.
Good, very good. Anybody have anything else to add to that? Your translations maybe said a little different. Did you notice? This is the good part, these first two is good. The third one we're going to look at.
The end there, hers says, will try to keep themselves pure. Mine says, will keep themselves
Will
pure.
keep.
Will do.
Yeah,
Not
okay,
will
very
try.
good. Yeah, if God is working in there, you will.
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, the third one over here. Now where we're gonna go tonight, it's gonna hinge on this one. And so this is like a little description. Have a look at that one. John 8, 42 to 44. All right, Tracy, are you ready? Let's have the remedy right off the bat.
Okay. 42. Okay.
John 8.
Yeah. Number 3 on your outline, or C in your outline, John 8, 42 to 44.
With tears in his eyes, Jesus replied, "If God were really your Father, you would love me, for I came from the Father, and I am an exact representation of him. I've not come on my own account, but as his ambassador, to reveal him to the world." Why don't you understand what I'm saying to you? It is because your minds are so darkened with your preconceived ideas and your preference for a God like yourselves that you are unwilling to open your minds and receive the truth I bring. You belong to your father, the devil. You prefer his methods, share his motives, and carry out his desires. His methods lead only to death, and from the beginning he has been murdering all who follow him. He rejects all that is true because truth exposes him as a fraud. He speaks the language of lies which he invented, for he is a liar, and he's the father of all who lie.
Wow. Jeff, what's yours saying?
Jesus said to them, "If God were your Father, you would love me, for I have come here from God. I have not come on my own. God sent me. Why is my language not clear to you? Because you are unable to hear what I say. You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires.
Strong statements then.
He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies.
That's pretty strong stuff there, Jeff. That's not wasting any words, almost seem like going straight for it and saying who he is. But this is where we're going to go tonight. We're going to have a look to see some of the things that he has hurled against God and see if we can identify some of these. There's lots of them out there. Tonight we'll just get a few of them. Okay, before any further, let's pause a moment. Father, we thank you so much for who you are, your great love for us, and how you even call us today, call us now your children, and how pleasant it is to hear those words. And we ask that tonight you will be with us, guide us in our thoughts, that we may understand your word. Lead now, we pray. Amen. Okay, 1 John 4:18. Here we go. And Sherry, this sounds like you, I think, so give us a running. 1 John 4, verse 18.
Just the one verse? Okay.
Okay?
Such love has no fear, because perfect love expels all fear. If we are afraid, it is for fear of punishment, and this shows that we have not fully experienced his perfect love.
Whoa. Jim, you have that up on your version. What's yours? King James?
King James,
Okay, give us a word on that.
there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment. He that feareth is not made perfect in love.
So, this fear we're talking about, if he creates fear in your heart, if we have any fear about him and the way he's going to treat us or anybody else, what does that say? We have a little fear there.
No trust.
Say that again?
No trust.
No trust, yes. So that needs to be developed there. I asked the young man, freshman boy, I said, I got a couple of questions I'll ask you. Number one, I said, sit down here. So he sat down. I said, the first thing, remember we did this the other night, the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the term God, what goes through your head? And this young freshman, big husky boy, slid down this chair and he says, next question. I said, oh, come on, give it a whirl, tell me. The first thing that goes through your mind when you hear that term, God, right? And he said, well, here's my thoughts. He says, you see the door over there, just across the way where we were, there was a door for an office. He says, in there is the big man. And you know that the big man is in there, but you can't see him, but you know he's in there. And if you step out of line in any way, you're in trouble, serious trouble. And Donald, thanks for that comment. I wanted to see where the kids, what they saw at this age, right? So, this says that when we understand what his love is really like, it should do what to us?
Fill us with confidence.
Confidence. Cast all that idea of the fear out, because fear, see, your verse, whose version had something to do with torture? Was it yours?
Yeah, that was good. What version do
If
you
we
have?
are afraid, it is for fear of punishment.
Or yours uses punishment?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
if
think
we're
there's
afraid
some
of God, that means that there's some fear that's tucked away in our mind somewhere, and we're worried about what he's going to do to us, because we know our backgrounds are not that clean, right? So what will he do? So the fear sets from what he's going to do to you, to punish you. That's why it says it has something to do with some terms, some translations put torture, and some will put punishment, right? The fear of judgment, because you might get punished. So if there's any fear anywhere, that means we do not know God well yet. But don't quit, just keep looking, try to understand who he is, and the clearer this gets, then that fear disappears. That's how that works. All right? Let's look at, this one, 1 John 5:20. And Big John, you probably want to note this one over here down. 5:20. All right, somebody give it to us. This is really an awesome thing, but it's way back there in your Bible, right? Getting close to the end of the whole Bible.
And we know that the Son of God has come and hath given us an understanding that we may know him that is true. And we are in him that is true, even in his Son Jesus Christ. This is the true God and eternal life.
All right, now John, put that in your own words and tell me what you saw in there. What's he saying?
That if you rely on yourself, you're going to die. But if
Okay.
you believe in him, you're eternal.
Okay, did yours use the word understanding, didn't it?
Understand.
Okay, well, how's understanding connected here?
And we know that the Son of God is come and hath given us an understanding that we may know him.
Whoa, so that is saying that in our picture right after the next session, he is going to head down in this direction here. So we'll have a path for him. When he comes, he'll do what? Give us understanding of whom?
God.
Of his Father. Yeah. See, then it starts clearing up more and more and more. That's the idea. It's an awesome little passage. It's just a little tiny thing sitting there. What was your translation of that, Jeff?
We know also that the Son of God has come and has given us understanding, so that we may know him who is true. And we are in him who is true by being in his Son, Jesus Christ. He is the true God and eternal life.
Okay, Tracy, now give us your famous Bible there.
Well, I was drawing something. Which were we?
Okay.
1 John 5, verse 20.
Yeah, that's in B, on the intro, B.
5:20.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
1 John 5:20.
We also know that Jesus, God's Son, has come and enlightened our minds with the truth about God, the nature of sin, the character of Satan, and the issues in this conflict between good and evil, so that we may come into full union and intimacy of heart and mind with God who is truth. And we are in oneness with the Father of truth and with his Son Jesus Christ. He is the true God and the source of all life.
Okay, in your words, share what you see in there. This would be a Tracy translation now.
Oh, dear.
In other words, what do you see? What came out of there?
Well, when Jesus comes, he puts light into our minds. He helps us to see the Father.
Okay, and that will be the ultimate revelation. Nothing
Yeah.
like that has ever been given before. Prophets and all the rest, but now we got the ultimate revelation that's going to speak. And that's the one that's going to give the understanding. Right?
Yeah,
Okay, awesome,
it
awesome.
is awesome.
All right, so now, here we go, down to the next section. We're going to look at the very first lie. What do you remember about the first lie? There's some notations there, just to refresh the mind. But what do you remember about that first lie? John, Big John, you had a good one back there. Something about touch.
Well, it's interesting if you really look at it, when she replies to Lucifer, or to the serpent, she says, or he asks the question, has God said that you cannot eat of any tree in the garden?
Right.
And she says, oh no, we can eat of any tree in the garden But of this tree we cannot eat it or touch it. She adds the word touch in. But if you look in Scripture, God doesn't use the word touch. He simply says eat. So right there, I don't think she did it purposely, but it was a slip of the tongue, and Satan is so smart, he took advantage of that. So now he's touching the fruit as he tells her blatantly, surely you will not die.
Well,
And so
that's blatant, man. That's right. Now, this is Lucifer, the one here that was to bring light, bring truth to all the angelic hosts, and as it passes on down, his name, Lucifer, stands light bringer. And so now he's saying,
surely you will not die. He's contradicting God point blank.
straight away. Pretty amazing to think that here's someone who knows you really well, and this is what he's going to say. No, you won't die. Right? So that touch comes in where it's not part of the command given by God, or law if you want to call it. God said, the day you eat of this fruit, you shall surely die. And but she added the other, eat or touch. So when the touch came, then Lucifer knew he had her. Because now he picks, hands it to her, she's not eating, she's just holding it. And wow, she's not dropping over dead, so maybe that's not so. So, that's the first blatant lie. You read about how he's lies, the father of lies, right? So you have lie, that's the very first one that came there. All right, now, turning the page over to page 2. Now, I want you to find for me the first accusation or misrepresentation that's in that passage, Isaiah 53. So turn to Isaiah 53 and see if you can spot it. Maybe, Sherry, we can get you to read it for us first, huh? Just the count, just read right straight through, starting, maybe you start at verse 1 and just read straight through to 6. Maybe we'll hear it as you're reading it.
Who has believed our message? To whom has the Lord revealed his powerful arm? My servant grew up in the Lord's presence, like a tender green shoot, like a root in dry ground. There was nothing beautiful or majestic about his appearance, nothing to attract us to him. He was despised and rejected, a man of sorrows, acquainted with deepest grief. We turned our backs on him and looked the other way. He was despised and we did not care. Yet it was our weaknesses he carried. It was our sorrows that weighed him down. And we thought his troubles were a punishment from God, a punishment for his own sins. But he was pierced for our rebellion, crushed for our sins. He was beaten so we could be whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. All of us, like sheep, have strayed away. We have left God's path to follow our own. Yet the Lord laid on him the sins of all.
Any blatant lie that you see in there? Maybe we should have the King James, that'll set us straight. Who has the King James? Give us that rendering, 1 through 6. Remember, this is the one that is always said, advice is given to everyone. You must read this chapter. You must memorize this whole chapter. Okay? Who has King James? Oh, you do? All right, give us that 1 to 6. Just the same passage she read. See if we can hear it coming.
Who hath believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs, and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all.
Did you hear it anywhere in there? Jeff, do you have the Amplified by chance in your computer there?
I don't.
I do.
You do? All right, listen to the Amplified and see if you can spot it when as he's reading it.
What's the question we're looking
The question is a misrepresentation of God big time?
Yeah, I already know what it is, but
Okay, well, good, read it so the others can catch it.
who has believed confidently in, trusted in, relied on, and adhered to our message of salvation? And to whom, if not us, has the arm and infinite power of the Lord been revealed? For he, the servant of God, grew up before him like a tender shoot, plant, and like a root out of dry ground. He has no stately form or majestic splendor that we would look at him, nor handsome appearance that we would be attracted to him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and pain and acquainted with grief. And like one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we did not appreciate his worth or esteem him. But, in fact, he has borne our griefs, and he has carried our sorrows and pains. Yet we ignorantly assumed that he was stricken, struck down by God, and degraded and humiliated by him. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was crushed for our wickedness, our sin, our injustice, our wrongdoing. The punishment required for our well-being fell on him, and by his stripes and wounds we are healed.
Did anybody hear it?
Yes,
Share it with us what you heard.
that he was stricken by God,
What verse is that?
whatever that was just said.
It is,
Verse 4.
Verse 4?
yeah,
I only have the
Now, wait a
red.
minute, let's check it. Verse 4, Sherry, what's it say?
Yet we ignorantly assumed that he was stricken, struck down by God, and degraded and humiliated by him.
That version does say it.
No, that was Amplified, I switched.
Or you went to
To read along with him.
And what about the son? Your first one
I
had
sounded
it.
a lot like his.
Yeah, the first, whatever you version you were doing first, yeah, it was there. But now, what does verse 4 say, Jim? Let's just get the King James version here.
Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and
Okay.
afflicted.
Pause. The word esteem there. We have a picture of what esteem is, don't we? When you think of something being esteemed, you usually think of students in school. We need to build their self-esteem. So whenever you see that word, that esteem come in, we somehow connect it with that. But that says, your version said, what? We esteem him.
You hold it up.
Yet we did esteem him stricken.
So that is saying what? if you use her words and John's words, we ignorantly thought that Jesus was what?
Stricken of
Smitten
God.
of God.
Being punished
That
for
God
his sins.
Bound them, right? And that's not so. And that's why I said it so nicely, we esteem, right, ignorantly thought that God is the one who punished him.
We think that God was punishing us. stricken.
That's right, that's a normal, and it's everywhere, that idea amongst many people. But it's not a correct view. God is not doing that, right?
No,
Sure.
I'm
Oh,
stretching.
you're just stretching, I thought you were ready to go over here. Okay, yeah, so that's a big one that's just sitting in there. So John, a big John, since you did so well on that, where did that idea come from? Why would they do such a thing and think that God is the one that did that?
Where did it come from?
Yeah, where did that idea from?
The father of lies.
Well, that's true. That's right. He said, you all gotta be thinking this way now. Do you see that? Yeah, okay. Where else?
I don't have a specific answer other than the idea of the cross.
Okay, go ahead. What are you thinking?
Well,
There was a teaching of that time that was present there.
mhm.
Now, if you can think of what that teaching is, it
Well, the teaching was that anyone who was hung from a tree was accursed of God.
yes, yes. How about the one that anybody who's healthy and wealthy, God is doing what to you?
Blessing.
Okay. Yeah.
Reverse that, the other side of the teaching. If you're poor, right, and having a
Being
hard
punished
time
by God
surviving,
for
God
sin.
is doing what to you?
Punishing you.
Yeah.
We
When
still
he
think
was
that.
out there on the cross, how do you think the people looked at him? As a great victory?
Do that.
No, they said, see that right there, the flash lightning? There it is again. He must be an imposter. And so that's where that idea comes through. We ignorantly thought that God was punishing him. No, the Father was there with his Son. The Son did not see him, was in the cloud, right? He was there to comfort his Son, to be able to make it through it all. So that's where, when the teaching is one way, it can head you down to a path, and the enemy takes advantage, and wow, does he have fun with that too. Okay, so that's in idea 53, and that's a big one. That's not a little one, right?
That's huge.
We ignorantly thought that God was punishing him to death. He's the one that killed the Son. See, because the normal thinking is that he killed the Son, and so now God is feeling much better that he was able to kill him, so now what can I do to help you folks? I feel much better now. That's insane, isn't it? When you think about that, it doesn't work that way. Okay, let's go on. Okay, this next one over here, Job. Jeff, would you get your Job up and yours? And then we're going to take it slow and easy, and I'm going to do that sketch that's in your picture down below. That idea. Okay? And it's probably going to happen within the first few verses we'll have it. Okay? Get us started then, Jeff. Take it slow and easy.
Starting with verse 6.
Starting with verse 1.
Oh, verse 1. Go 1, 6 through 11. Start with 1.
Well, just start reading, so we're going to do the first part of it.
In the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job.
Right?
This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants.
That's a pretty wealthy man, no?
He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. His sons used to used to hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts.
That's pretty good for a parent to do that, to think that, right? We're always concerned about our children, and how they're doing. Yeah, so that's what Job did. Can't go a little further.
This was Job's regular custom. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?"
Okay, slow down. All right, let me put this set up over here. So, who showed up?
The angels of the Lord.
So a bunch of angels showed up. Any idea who they might be? Having a special conference, right?
Well,
Somehow, something having to do with presenting themselves.
came to present themselves before the Lord.
Any translations out there that says an angel showed up?
Members of the heavenly court.
Say that again?
Members of the heavenly court is what New Living says.
So the dignitaries showed up. Could it be that they're representatives of God's universe? This one, that one, all of these here, and all the different parts of His universe, they showed up. And maybe they're going to have a little visit together. It says to present themselves, right? All right, now picture this door here. This is where God comes through. And He's having this special session with all His representatives, dignitaries that have showed up in various parts of His universe. And in comes whom? Who shows up?
The accuser.
Satan.
Now, have you ever wondered how in the world did he show up? I thought he was thrown out somewhere. And this is quite a ways down the road now, and here he comes walking in. Surely the meeting is not outside of heaven, do you think? Or would this session be in heaven, and he comes just walking in? Howdy, folks.
Well, the door is always open for him to change his mind, isn't it?
That's cool. Okay, all right, here it is. So Satan shows up here. All right, now, something interesting happens here. So now he's going to, God is going to give a response here. Huh? And what does God say to Lucifer or Satan now?
From where have you come?
Okay, what you been doing? It comes from planet Earth, right? So what you been doing? And what does he say? How does he answer what he's been doing?
Want me to continue, or?
Yeah.
Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it."
So now, that's the response back that he gives to God, right? All right, so now, let me ask you this question. Do you think these folks here knew who this person was?
Oh, yeah.
And you would say that because he was in charge of all the angels, right? Okay,
That way. A little bit.
come again?
I said, can you go? Never mind. It's okay. Keep going.
Or you, yeah, I'll get out of the way here in a minute. Okay, so the first question comes flying through. So where have you been? What you been doing? Response comes back, and he says what?
Roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it.
Okay, roaming through the earth, going back and forth, up and down, checking it out to see what's going on, right? Now, tell me something. If you were one of these folks here that came, and you know who that is, of course, when you see him walk in, it's going to shock you, right? Going to be surprised to see him there. And when God asks him the question, what do you think they're all going to do here?
Listen.
He did, that was it. That's right, they would look here to see what he's going to say. right? And after he says what he says, and what they're gonna do now? They're gonna watch what God says back, right? I mean, it's just normal, it's
Watching
natural.
this interchange.
So now you're gonna have this back and forth, so, where have you been? Planet Earth, what you been doing? Walking up and down, then what's next?
Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job?
Ah, that's cool, isn't it? Go on.
There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil."
Whoa, now that's quite a comment on somebody. How would you like God say that about you, John? So what do you think of my man, John? And they're all up in heaven, he's been cruising around. Oh yeah, John, he's a blameless man, huh? That's quite a comment to make, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, then what happens?
Does Job fear God for nothing?
Ooh, now what does that sound like? So here it comes back now, answering that.
Yeah, you can just imagine all those representatives there at the table. You could hear a pin drop, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're, what's going on here?
That's right.
What's the
I wish there was a little more detail in that Job account as they're going, but it's sufficient to do the job, I think.
It sounds like to me that Satan's actually justifying the fact that Job has not come to his side.
Okay, so is that
Saying,
an
well,
accusation against God?
It's an accusation against God. It's saying, look, he would come to my side if you weren't so darn nice to him.
That's right, that's right, that's the idea, see, so now he fires back, and so you know they're gonna wonder, how's God gonna answer that? God has been nice to him. Does your version say anything about a hedge there, Jeff?
Yes. He says, "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land."
Okay, so you have this accusation coming through, right? That he has, number one, a hedge wrapped around Job. So if God's hedge is wrapped around you and your household, what?
You're protected.
So that you're protected, yeah, you're cared for, you're protected, all right? That's one point over here. And so the other point, John, that you're making is a powerful one, because that's accusing God, right? The only reason why Job is nice or like he is because, number one, you have a hedge wrapped around him, protecting him, and secondly, you're blessing him, and he has all these things.
He has everything he wants.
Everything, yeah. But now, this one part over here where he says, when Satan goes after God, it says the only reason why he's nice is because you're treating him so good, you're caring for him. Everything his hand touches is blessed. See, so he's accusing God, right? That's an accusation coming straight from Job, heading straight to God. And when the meeting breaks up, what do you think these folks are going to do when they return back to their posts? It is possible that they'll go back and give the news, what it was like to be in today's session. You know who came walking in? Who? None other than that he came in. And you know what he said? And they began to say this. So news can go pretty good. All right, so now that's an accusation. We're going to go a little further, Jeff. Let's see how he's going to get out of this.
"But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face."
Boy, that's a straightaway, right? Yeah, you do this, then he'll do that back to you. So
Thing is,
everybody hears that,
I think Satan was probably completely convinced he was right.
that he was right.
Yeah,
That's
I think
absolutely.
Satan was, when he's talking with God here, he's totally sure that Job's gonna,
Yeah, if you could somehow get rid of all of the stuff that he has, his family and all those wealthy goods that he has, then you will see Job.
Well, he's walking the earth, so he sees us, and when we stumble and fall, the first thing we do is we try to blame something else. And he's like, hey, this guy's just got it.
Okay, good, yeah, all right, so now what's gonna happen there, Jeff, right after he says that?
The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger."
Yeah, don't touch him.
Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord.
And you hear all these things that are happening, huh?
One day when Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby. Then the Sabeans attacked and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you."
So kill them all except one. Right?
Yep.
All right, go a little further.
While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the heavens and burned up the sheep and the servants."
Whoa, what is that? Fire from heaven fell down.
"And I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and made off with them. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "Your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are dead, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." At this, Job got up and tore his robe, and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship, and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised."
Okay, so what did God do over here? He told Satan, everything that you said, I'll give you permission to go ahead and do it, but don't touch his life, right? So it's like opening up a doorway for Satan to come and do what he's going to do to his family. And that's the only way they can touch him. So that means that even if God is wrapped around your house and caring for you, then how will your fear go? Job tells us over here that if his hedge is wrapped around your house, nobody can touch you unless permission is granted. And in this case, permission was granted. Now that's a good one to kind of take a person's mind and whirl it around there. Why did you give this one all this kind of trouble?
But Satan pretended to be God. So the
Yes.
fire of God,
Yes.
he wanted it to look like.
That's right, right. Everything was all, he was trying to create something over there. Is it possible that God knew how Job would respond? When he said, "Job, my friend, is blameless." And then when you get to the end of Job, God is going to say, "Job, you've said what is right of me. But your 3 friends, they need a little help. Pray for them." So there were friends that came over. These were the elders that came over to help them, solve these problems and try to figure out why Job keeps saying that he's blameless. All right, now, in this picture here, you see how the enemy is working. He comes in, he casts an accusation, and then he begins his work. In this case, God permitted him to go ahead and do what he wanted to do. Now, the second chapter is gonna be exactly the same. It's gonna come around saying the same things, except this time it's skin on skin. God says, no, that's my friend. He will not turn on me. And he grants him permission, skin on skin, and poor Job is hurting bad, right? But he knew that Job would represent him aright, clear to the end, no matter what comes. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so that's how that dimension works through here. In fact, let's see, Tracy, if you'll be narrator, and, yes,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Verse 21.
Yeah.
Job says, naked came out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. And the Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. By that statement Job made, did he really understand the character of God?
In the first 2 chapters, Job does not get the whole picture because he's in it. The picture is being created until he goes further down in the book, and Job is asking all kinds of questions, and God says, okay, since you've asked so many questions, now let me raise some questions for you so you can think it through, right? All right, so on that picture right there, where you're mentioning there, it's not the first 2 chapters, 1 and 2. It's like you're in the middle of something that's happening. You can't say what's going on until you get on the other end, then you can say, right? So it's like it's being formed, the idea of all of this that's going on. So he's right in the middle of that whole building of that picture of this, how Satan works, how God works, God's trust of his people, and people's trust of God, and what God permits, and how Satan will work. This setting, this is, you see it all over throughout. One of the first books written too in the Bible is Job. So this whole principle of the controversy, how that's working, is being identified right here. It's very interesting.
Because just the statement that he made, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh.
Right.
It's almost like he is pointing to that the Lord is doing all this.
Yes, because he's not sure. Because if you go a little further in the read of the chapters, he'll say, God, who is doing this? I know you're not doing it, but if you're not doing it, who is? See, that's where this whole thing is being formed, being developed, and he's just getting a handle on it. It's not till the end that he begins to really get who God is. Very good. Okay, turn the page. All right, now, let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We have a max of 10. And 25, so 3 apiece. Okay, let's do this. Well, we could. It might be fun just to hear it develop.
I know you just told Tracy she.
Oh, yeah, I started Tracy. Oh, yes,
I figured
yes.
you ran out of time.
No, let's do it, just for fun. Okay. Tracy, you're good at narrating. John? Little John? Muscular John?
I like Little John.
Okay, okay. Will you be God?
Let Jim do
What's that?
that. Let Jim do that part.
Okay, Jim gonna be God, and then you be Satan.
I'll roll with that.
Okay,
Where are we at now?
all right,
Go
on
back one
page 2,
Back to page 2.
you're gonna just let it flow, this little discussion between you all. You see it right there? That little, it's under section C.
It's here. So Tracy's gonna be the narrator, so she's gonna read the narrator part.
Okay.
And the others will just to get the listen,
Okay, I see,
to
okay.
feel the impact going on.
Yeah,
Okay?
all right.
All right, Jason, are you ready?
Ready?
You're ready. All right, everybody else are all ready to go. Okay, go ahead.
Job was written for the purpose of answering why so much suffering and why a loving God allows it. Put on your thinking cap and in your mind's eye, attempt to grasp the impact of this event. Picture this. In the midst of a special session that God has called for his dignitaries, representing the various parts of his universe, to come in and present themselves. Then in the middle of their discussion, Satan suddenly enters the room. God sees him, looks at him, and then asks,
So where have you come from, Satan?
Oh, from going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down on it.
I trust you have seen my friend Job. Tell me, what do you think of him? There's no one quite like him on earth, right? He's my servant, you know, a blameless and upright man, one who fears me constantly and stays away from having anything to do with evil, doesn't he?
Well, that might be so, all right, but there's a reason why he's like that, you know. Do you think Job does all of that out of sheer goodness of his heart? Absolutely not. Why? No one ever had it so good. You've pampered him like a pet, made sure that nothing bad ever happens to him, or his family, or his possessions. You've blessed everything he does. How can a person lose on that kind of pamperage? Furthermore, you've put a barrier about him and his house, even on all that he has, and you know that. You've blessed him in everything that he has touched. But I tell you this, if you put forth your hand on all that, he will curse you to your face.
Very well. All that he has is in your power to do as you see fit. You may now put forth your hand on everything that he has, but do not lay a finger on him.
With that, Satan left the room and went out to do as he had accused God. Permission was granted Satan to only do what God had allowed him to do.
Okay, good. Okay, going to the next page where we're going to have, all right, each person take 3, no more than 3, and then we're going to share with each other. All right, we're going to look these up, and Sylvia has in the other, if you're not using the computer, if you need a great controversy or DA, yeah, I'm going to assign it now. Okay, the first 3, how about? Okay. All right. You have your document in front of you, ready to write down briefly the person that's going to say it, and then you jot it down in brief so that you have a gist of what's going on. Okay, number 1, I think Sherry, we started with you, didn't we?
It is.
Okay, 1, and tell us when you shift to 2 and when you shift to 3, so they can jot it down. Everybody have their books ready? Pencil handy? All right, Simona, you ready?
We're ready. 50-50, yeah.
Okay, she's gonna give 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's see how we go.
We
All right,
just can
Jerry.
write whatever
All right.
she says.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
All right, so just the ones that jumped out at me, because I could have written most of
Sure.
the paragraph.
Exactly.
But the first thing that popped out was that he was concealing his real purpose
Okay,
under an appearance of reverence. So he's pretending to be reverent when he's got an underlying motive. Then he was intimating that God's law has imposed an unnecessary restraint.
okay, God's love, unnecessary restraint.
And representing that God was dealing unjustly with him.
Okay, God deals unjustly with Satan, with Lucifer.
And then the big one was claiming that he was not aiming at self-exaltation, but seeking to secure liberty.
Seeking to secure liberty.
And on to number 2.
Number 2, coming up.
He was perverting Christ's warnings to him.
Perverting warning.
Again, he was representing that he was being wrongly judged.
Wrongly judged again.
And he was misrepresenting the acts of the Creator.
Misrepresenting the act of the Creator.
He was accusing the Son of God of having a design to humiliate him before the other angels.
Accusing God of humiliating him.
Humiliating
Yeah.
him.
Okay.
He was seeking to perplex the angels with his subtle arguments.
Perplex angels with subtle arguments.
And then shrouding simple truth in mystery.
Shrouding simple truth in, what did you say? Mystery.
In mystery.
Okay, is it 3 next?
Number 3.
Number 3.
Let's see. He was making it appear that he was seeking to remove dissatisfaction of the angels.
Appear to be removing dissatisfaction of the angel. Okay?
And that was my place. Was urging that God's laws needed to be changed.
God's law
In order to
needs to
preserve
be
harmony.
changed
In order to preserve harmony.
in order to preserve harmony. It's picking everything, whatever it can find.
That's it.
Okay, 4, 5, and 6. Is that yours, Jim?
That's mine.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Number 4.
Says here, in his dealing with sin, God, and I just came up with, Satan used flattery and deceit.
No, that's good. Satan used flattery and deceit. That'll do it, okay?
Okay, and then the next one is the discord with which his own course had produced, had caused in heaven, Satan charged upon God.
Okay, something charged against God. What's charged against God again?
Discord.
Discord?
The discord which his own course had caused in heaven, Satan charged upon God.
Blame God for it.
That's really something when you think about that, right? I mean, how he does that.
We
Yeah.
got that going on now.
Well, well, the Democrats, that's what the Democrats do.
Big time, right?
Be
The
careful, I'm a
liberals, man,
Democrat.
yeah, so
Be nice. Okay, here we
it's
go.
really going on, big, yeah.
Okay, you got another one there for
Politics
4?
out of it.
So, and then the next one, number
5?
6, that was 5.
Oh, that was
So
5.
6,
And 6?
to the very close of the controversy, Satan continues to justify himself.
Satan justifies himself to the very end. Okay? All right, so we're on 7, 8, and 9. Jeff, that's you, huh?
That's me.
Okay, 7.
With, so 7, let's see. With one accord, Satan blamed Jesus for his rebellion.
Satan blames Jesus for his rebellion. Okay, any others on that, under that one?
That's the only one I had for that.
Okay,
And then the next one, number 8, now the guilt of Satan stood. And I put, Satan claimed disobeying God's law would bring freedom, but was shown to do the opposite.
so disobey brings harmony. Disobedience brings harmony.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Or freedom, you said, okay. Okay, any others under that one?
That's it.
Okay,
And then Satan's, and then on the next one, number 9, Satan's lying charges against. Satan accused God of being self-serving.
it's a good one. Satan accused God of
And that's,
self-serving.
I was still working on that one, so I didn't quite get it
Yeah,
where I was.
good. Okay, let's see. Who's next? Are you next?
Mhm.
Tracy, you have what numbers?
10, 11, and 12.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so he said the law of God was changeless and its penalty could not be remitted. Therefore, every transgressor should be forever debarred from the Creator's favor.
Okay, every transgressor
Should be debarred from the Creator's favor.
debarred from the Creator's favor.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay,
Good.
so that's 10, 11. He said he accused God of self-exaltation, and he caused, or he led men to doubt the word of God.
Accuse God of self-exaltation,
Yeah.
you said?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty daring.
Very. And he caused men to distrust God's word and his goodness. So he accused God of not telling the truth.
Okay? All right?
And then 12, he caused darkness through misapprehension of God.
Cause darkness through misapprehension of God. Anybody have any idea what misapprehension means?
Misunderstanding. Misguidance.
That'd be terrible. That says that misunderstanding of God, right?
Apprehension is fear, so
And
it's
fear.
misplaced fear.
When you apprehend something,
Apprehension is fear.
so misunderstanding and afraid of fear goes hand in hand with that. Okay? Who's next in
Satan
line?
represents-
Oh, John, okay, yeah, John, what numbers?
13, 14, 15.
Okay,
13. Satan represents God's law. He represented God's law, the power of God as insufficient and impossible to obey. So he used our selfishness.
so God's law impossible to obey? Is that what you're saying?
He used our selfishness to make it seem like God wasn't actually working for us.
Okay,
He wasn't saving us from ourselves. We had to make a choice.
okay. All right,
I just wrote down what was in the book. I didn't know that.
yeah, that's
That's
okay.
fine.
That's okay, you're doing fine.
Number 14.
14,
Satan's purpose for bringing about eternal separation between God and man.
so Satan's objective is to bring eternal separation between God
and man.
and man.
Number 15, the fullness of time had come, to wear out the forbearance of God and to extinguish his love for men.
Wear out the forbearance of God. Now that's quite a challenge. To wear out God's forbearance.
That just,
Is that?
I don't know, in some ways that is so, it's like you go way back to the beginning in heaven, and God bore long,
Right.
and yet Satan is not getting it.
He's gonna try to wear it out now.
He's gonna try and work it out again.
That's a good comment.
We'll try for
All right, any others on 15, John, or is that it?
That was it.
Okay. All right,
Pretty short.
Steps of Christ, is the next one. That's Robbie, that you, 16? I'm gonna jot Robbie's one down over here on the board. Okay, Robbie, what's the first one on there?
First one is blinded the minds.
Okay, minds blinded. Okay, then,
Afraid of God.
afraid of God. Okay,
Then severe and unforgiving.
severe and unforgiving. Okay,
Then there's stern justice.
stern justice. And
Then harsh and exacting creditor.
harsh creditor and exacting.
And jealous eye. Errors and mistakes.
Watching with a jealous eye to what?
For errors and mistakes.
I'm going to put to discern. Your errors and mistakes.
And then the last one was to visit judgments.
So he's going to, with a jealous eye, he's watching to discern all your errors and mistakes.
So he can
So he can what? Punish?
visit or punish judgment.
Now, interesting enough, if you look at that list alone, which is very similar to what you folks are working on, Lucifer blinded the minds of man. Made it so that you're afraid of God. And that God is someone who is severe and unforgiving. Now we have a hard time, many folks have a hard time getting past God's forgiveness, right? I mean, they don't actually see Him as a forgiving God, or
They don't see themselves as forgiving, so they put that on him.
yeah, there's a problem there.
That's what Satan
But
does.
But when you think about this, all of this is coming from the enemy, right? And a harsh creditor. What's a creditor, Sherry?
Someone that loans money or collects money?
So
Yes.
God is someone who is a harsh creditor. What would that say to you?
He charges high interest.
And exact to the penny,
He's
right?
asking me. He's like.
So the next one, the exacting, right? An exacting creditor. That's quite a picture of God. When you think about the enemy's doing this, right? He said that. Now, this one takes the cake. God is someone who watches with a jealous eye so He can discern all of your errors and mistakes so He can punish you. Now, have you ever had this when you were growing up? You do have a guardian angel, right, John?
Absolutely.
What does he do?
He's there to steer me
Watch
through
you,
my
take care of
mistakes.
you? Anything else that is, suppose you steal something from the shelf in Super 8 or something, what's he
Gives me
do?
a mind of what's right.
So, the enemy, let's see, the date is the 23rd, 2017. Stole Super 8,
Super one.
or Super
Whatever.
1, Super 1,
Whatever.
okay. So he's got that down in the book, right? And he's about ready to put the book in, and then John, you should have never thought of that. That person that walked should never have that idea put in your mind. 23rd again, of 2017, his thoughts were not right. So now we're collecting, right? Pretty soon that book is going to be loaded with all kinds of stuff down here. And so we say, why is he doing that? And Satan is ready. He's keeping track of that so he can get you on the end and punish you. That's quite a picture of God. The enemy has created that. So is God really doing that?
No.
Well, we've been taught that from day one. The
Love
world
keeps
as
no
a
record.
whole, there's
Somebody,
a they say there's a Santa Claus.
so somebody's got to keep track of it, right? So you have that Amplified Bible? Who had it?
John.
Sure.
You did, John? Oh, 13. 1 Corinthians 13, have a look at that, describing what love is.
It's not in that, it's in.
Keeps no record.
Oh,
of
NIV, yeah, NIV, sorry.
Oh, Jeff has an
Who has
idea.
NIV?
Jeff.
I have been.
Oh, you have that, all right, but just read that real quick.
What was it, 1 Corinthians 13?
Yeah, and you, so you're gonna pick it up somewhere around 1, 4, 5, 6 or something. Love is kind, love is, goes on talking about what God's love is really like. Pick it up at that point.
What chap, what,
1 Corinthians 13.
oh, 13.
You're the
Yeah.
14.
Oh, and then.
Start when it starts describing this.
Love, love is patient, love
There we
is
go.
kind, does not envy, does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs,
Excuse me?
keeps no record of wrongs.
Wow, is that, is NIV right or am I wrong?
Even the good news says that.
The good news says that?
And New Living.
New King James says, rejoices in the truth instead of keeps no record of wrong.
Yeah.
Where'd the list come from then?
Satan's list. Satan's had this
It's
here.
in
He created it. Now, what's fun to do sometime, if a person really wants to, get a few books out where all these accusations are coming out. Record them all, write them all down, really go through it. And then ask yourself, how many of these do I believe that are actually true? You'll surprise yourself. But the enemy is the one that created all of that. So these things you folks are sharing now comes from the enemy. It's his perception of God, and he's the one that's doing this. He's tricky, subtle, slippery. What else you want to say? Cunning.
Conniving.
Yeah, pretty wild. Okay, a couple more over here, then we're going to bring it to a conclusion. All right. Who has 17, 18, and 19?
I think me.
Okay, Simona.
Boy,
It's our job.
Satan was seeking to shut up men from men and knowledge of God,
Oh,
and turn their
cut off the
attention-
knowledge of God from man. Is that what he's trying to do? Not let the knowledge pass through so we could understand what God's
Right.
like. Okay,
Right.
shut out the
And-
knowledge of God.
um, turn their attention from the temple of God and to establish his own kingdom.
Okay, what'd she say?
He's trying to establish his own kingdom.
Oh, okay. Wants to establish his own kingdom.
Yeah, he wanted his supremacy over
Supremacy over
supremacy
all
over,
of-
over the whole world,
Okay.
and he almost succeeded. He was almost successful.
He got all the way down to Adam and Eve, and they got him to come
Yeah.
across the way. And then, okay, going on.
Um,
That's
the, the, God had his own agencies, and even among the heaven.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Just read the last sentence.
the dark shadow that Satan had cast over the world grew deeper and deeper.
You got what?
The shadow grew deeper and deeper.
Oh, yeah, the shadow. Yeah, the darker that gets up there, the greater the shadow, right? The shadow goes
Created
deeper.
all the darkness and the grew deeper and deeper.
So the knowledge of God is slowly and steadily being overshadowed by all of these.
Okay, you can go to the next one.
Yeah, through hedonism, Satan for ages turned men away from God. But the most his triumph was when he perverted the faith of Israel people.
Oh, that's something perverted the faith of Israel.
Israel people.
And that's why Israel went the way they did.
They start to contemplate and worship their own conceptions, how they think, and the principle that man can save himself by his own works lay at the foundation of every heathen religion, and it can now become the principle of the Jewish religion.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's where
So it works.
Satan,
Roll up
yeah.
your sleeve, go to work, right?
and Satan was the one who implanted this principle.
Isn't that something?
That was his job.
Yeah, the whole works operation
Did that.
Satan planted. Okay, good.
And whatever it is held, men have no barrier against the sin.
Anybody who holds the idea that righteousness comes by your works,
Yeah.
there is no what?
No barrier,
No
no
barrier.
protection anymore,
From God.
No God's
He
protection.
can't do anything for you. Wow. Okay.
That's it for that. And then 19.
19.
The people whom God had called to be the pillar and ground of the truth had become representatives of Satan.
Hello. So the leaders have become the representatives of Satan.
The most priests of Jewish leaders,
Okay.
Jewish priests.
Wow.
They were doing the work that he desired them to do, taking course to misrepresent the character of God.
Misrepresenting the character of God again.
And cause the world to look upon him as a tyrant.
As a tyrant.
The
Okay.
very priests who ministered in the temple had lost sight of the significance of the service they performed.
Misconception of the service that the
And the
priests
whole
perform.
system must be swept away.
Whoa, the whole system might be wiped out. That's
So
something.
that's it about that.
Okay.
That's
right.
it. I'm
Is
done.
there one more?
No.
Okay, all right, Lovely, you three.
20. It says, the deception of sin had reached its height. And everything that God had given man, he had turned it into a way of sin. So it became victims of satanic cruelty. He looked with compassion, this is God, he looked with compassion upon those who were being corrupted, murdered, and lost. They had chosen a ruler who chained them to his car as captives.
Satan chained man
Yeah.
to his car.
Bewildered and deceived, they were moving on in gloomy procession toward eternal ruin. So that's that paragraph.
Okay,
21, sin had become a science and vice was consecrated as a part of religion. It was demonstrated before the universe that apart from God, humanity could not be uplifted. A new element of life and power must be imparted to man by him who made the world. Okay, and 22. With intense interest, the unfallen worlds had watched to see Jehovah arise and sweep away the inhabitants of the earth.
I like that. So that's saying all the other intelligence up there, things got so bad that they were ready to do what?
They thought God would sweep away man from the earth.
Wipe them out.
Yeah.
Clean house.
It just means they misunderstood what happened at the flood. They
Okay.
thought God would do the flood again. But in its place, well, Satan said that forgiveness was impossible. And
Forgiveness impossible.
And he was ready, if he could win the earth, then he was going to go and win all the worlds, all the other worlds. But instead of destroying the world, God sent his son to save it.
What a contrast. Send a baby down. Okay.
Deity was glorified by pouring upon the world a flood of healing grace that was never to be obstructed or withdrawn till the plan of salvation should be fulfilled.
Wow. That's a rescue plan.
That's the end of mine.
Okay, last three. John and Bobby back there, the scholars. Okay, what do we have for 24 on the DA?
23.
23, sorry.
So it's the sentence starts with the issues of the conflict before him.
You can't read
Uh-oh,
it.
I can't read his handwriting.
Mine are too tired.
Okay, help them out, John.
Well, okay, so I can read what I'm looking. So the accusation or the deception was actually being whispered to Jesus that he was going to be eternally separated from God, and that there'd be no chance for him to be back with God if he went through with this.
Jesus to be eternally separated
Oh.
from his Father.
You
Okay.
take the next one, John.
Oh, I didn't write them down.
So you didn't write them down?
I was counting on you writing them down.
Oh, okay.
That was bad. So this one starts with the principalities and powers of darkness.
So in this one, the accusation again aimed at Jesus is that he's going to be, it's true that he's the chief of sinners was the lie.
Yeah, the
Jesus
accusation
is going
against
to be the
Jesus.
chief of sinners.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the chief of sinner, and and that we should despise him.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, when you look at the cross, you see that's what they thought.
Yep, that is what
You know, that's a big point for that group that was gathered. Oh, look, all these things are happening, crashing, darkness, thunder, lightning. That's only hurled against those who have distorted the truth about God. Okay? Any other thoughts? 25?
Yeah, so on 25, then it shifts the attention to the followers or the brethren of Jesus are clothed with garments of blackness and sin. So the same accusations that he hurled at Jesus, now he shifts and says, well, yeah, look at his followers, right? And of course we struggle with that because we feel all the time that we really are bad because we've been evil, we started that way. But he makes the same accusation that he made at Jesus.
Now, hurls it at his people,
Hurls it at the
followers.
followers of Jesus, that they're, too messed up, they can't be saved.
That's quite a job that he does, or goes through, huh? What are you thinking?
Number 25.
Yeah?
Is that what you have for number 25?
Yep. That might not be what you were looking for, but that's what we found.
Oh, that's good.
Saw that his disguise was torn away.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't an accusation or a lie, that was
Oh.
true.
Oh, I
So we were looking for the part that wasn't true. Did we do the wrong thing?
No, he did the right thing.
That's good.
We're looking for accusations, but you can see the enemy on these accusations, he's really hurling it. Now, let me just put a couple of things up here. As the accusations, lies, it gets built and it gets darker and darker, right? This cloud. So the understanding of God begins to disappear. And pretty soon they're not sure who to listen to, what is truth. Because so much of this, it gets darker and darker. And you can see why we mentioned the other day, the shadow that this cloud creates is called the shadow of death. Anyone who accepts what he's saying, the final run will be death. So it's a shadow of death. Then I said, remember that passage? Oh, you walk through the shadow of death, I will what?
Fear no evil.
I will fear no evil, because you know your God, even though you're in the shadow. The other thing is this, that as this builds up more and more, tell me what's happening to the understanding of God as we look at Him, or as others look at Him. Isn't it too beginning to get darkened? Not that He is getting bad off, but because of all the things hurled against Him, now we're not sure what to think of what God is. So the truth about who He is slowly getting darkened to the point that it's difficult for folks to understand who God is. So when I told that boy, the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word God, what do you think of? All you can think of is sliding down further in his chair and say, go to the next question. Because to him, now, God is something that is out to get him. So that's where it leads. So as this builds up, the shadow gets greater and greater. Now, we mentioned about, what about the angels who followed him out? Do we have any place in here that would help us out to understand, did they have a chance to change their mind? Or is it like Lucifer? No chance to change his mind. Okay, so now let's hand out the final one. And you can do one of two things with this, and you can take it home and read it, and look for that, for hints that what God did for those angels.
Started out with half of them going, and then,
Almost one half of them that he had on his side.
yeah, so something happened because
Yeah.
it ended up being 1/3 instead of 1/2.
That's 8:45.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's a time to quit. So it's I guess it's time to quit. Sherry raised her hand up and said, that's it. So,
Chippy, you're so powerful.
so, if you remain sitting and Jeff starts reading, then we know we're gonna hang in and listen to this and listen for the hints that may come along. And maybe we can go to the short of it, go to the last page. And pick it up there, Jeff, and then we'll have benediction together. See the yellow section, the last page of that document?
Where all the yellow is?
Yeah, I think there's 3 broad yellow,
Four.
the last, kind of like the last 3 paragraphs.
There's 6 pages.
Yeah, on the last page, what page is that?
Starting with 32,
Number 32.
on page 6.
All right, Big John, you wanna read that for us, and then we'll sort it out?
After the transgression of Adam, Satan saw that ruin was complete. The human race was brought into a deplorable condition. Man was cut off from intercourse with God. It was Satan's design that the state of man should be the same with that of the fallen angels in rebellion against God, uncheered by a gleam of hope. He reasoned that if God pardoned sinful man whom he had created, he would also pardon and receive into favor him and his angels. But he was disappointed. The divine Son of God saw that no arm but his own could save fallen man. He determined to help man. He left the fallen angels to perish in their rebellion, but stretched forth his hand to rescue perishing man. The angels who were rebellious were dealt with according to the light and experience they had abundantly enjoyed in heaven. Satan, the chief of the fallen angels, once had an exalted position in heaven. He was next in honor to Christ. The knowledge which he, as well as the angels who fell with him, had of the character of God, of his goodness, his mercy, his wisdom, and excellent glory, made their guilt unpardonable. There was no possible hope for those ever to be redeemed who had witnessed and enjoyed the inexpressible glory of heaven and had seen the terrible majesty of God, and in presence of all this glory had rebelled against him. There were no new and more wonderful exhibitions of God's exalted power that could ever impress them as deeply as those they had already experienced. If they could rebel in the very presence of the weight of glory inexpressible, they could not be placed in any more favorable condition to be proved. There was no reserve force of power, nor were there any greater heights and depths of infinite glory to overpower their jealous doubts and rebellious murmuring. Their guilt and their punishment must be in proportion to their exalted privileges in the heavenly courts.
So what do you think? Did God do everything he could to win their hearts?
He did.
It certainly
God-
alludes that, doesn't it?
When he fully reveals his goodness to a person's heart, and they say, I don't want that, what more can be done?
And this is the message that your folks are sharing. So you guys are deadly.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when they
To
see
him.
it and they turn against it,
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing thought if you think about it that way, you know. Anybody else, any thought, what do you think? God gave it all he could do. It sounds the same to everything else that he's done and how he addresses everyone. He labors a long time, he forbears, and on and on. That seems to be there because the angels are in a very perfect setting and all their high positions that they're in, the glory of God is being displayed for them. And if they turn it down, what else could God show them? He showed them everything.
They had the record of his love to refer back to as these lies and deceptions were coming into their midst.
Yeah.
We have Christ to look to see his life and the way he treated people and how he was. So we have no need to be deceived as well.
Yeah, very good, very good.